there are a lot of translations of the Bible. And for a lot of people, they look at that and they think, because there are so many translations, we can't trust any of them, so they're not even going to read it at all. But that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all, because like if you were stuck in an airport and you were trying to find a way out and you look at a sign and it says exit, and then it's translated into a bunch of different other languages, Spanish, French, German, and if you're thinking, oh my gosh, too many translations, I'm not going to read, then you're going to be stuck in an airport for a very long time, just like Tom Hanks with a bad accent in the terminal. You want to get out, so you don't care how many times it's translated. You just care that you can get out. It's exit, it's salida, get out of there. So in the same way, when we read the Bible, it's okay that it's translated a bunch of different times, even though there are dozens and even hundreds of English translations. Why is that? Well, because there are a lot of different words that mean the same thing in our language. So take, for example, hi. I can say hi, or I can be more formal, hello. Or if you're from down under, g'day. You might say sup. Or you might think that's too much from the 90s, and you might say something like, hiya! There's all sorts of different ways to say hi in the English language, and that's just a few of them. So when we're translating something from another language like Hebrew and Greek to English, there's a lot of different variations of what it could be. That's why there's a lot of different translations. So then the question, well, which one should I read? Well, you've got to understand how translations work, and there are really three different types of translations. There are some translations, like these two, which seem a little more formal. They're considered word-for-word translations, meaning they're going to take one word from the ancient language and translate it into one word in English whenever possible. And that makes it so it's a little more accurate, but it's a little harder to read and understand, because things like word order change, and it makes it a little stilted if you try to keep it word for word. For example, if you remember back in your first semester Spanish class in high school, you might read a sentence in Spanish out loud in English, and it would say something like, I like tomato red. Okay, that doesn't make sense in English because of the change in word order. And that's the kind of stuff that you might get in these translations. Though very accurate, they're a little more stilted sometimes to read. There are other translations like this one, the NLT, which is going to be more considered closer to a paraphrase, that they're taking the words and ideas of the past and they're going to paraphrase it into English so it's more easy to understand. A little less accurate, easier to understand. And then there are some translations like this one, the NIV, which is trying their best to be right in the middle, accurate and easy to understand. This is the one that I use to preach from. There are other translations, though, like the good old KJV, okay? It used to be a great translation. When it was translated in the 1600s, it was incredible, ahead of its time. But we don't speak with those these and thous anymore, do we? So it's a lot harder to read, okay? That's how translations work, and that's why there's so many of them. So which one should you use? I don't know, Jason, what's your favorite?
I switch between NIV and ESV. NIV if I'm trying to do something quick, and then ESV if I want to feel smart.
And that's good if you want to feel smart. And that's right. You can use different translations for different things. In fact, all three of those different types of translations are good. I use the ESV like you when I really want to study and get a little more accurate. And I use the NIV to preach from because I think it's right in the middle of accuracy and understandability. And then I also use the NLT sometimes when I'm reading. But I also read through the Bible every year in a different translation. Here's the truth. You want to know the perfect, best Bible translation? The one you actually read. And I mean that. I don't care if you read the old KJV, if that gets you going. Whatever it takes, read the Bible. I don't care which one it is. The best translation is the one you read. Stop thinking, oh my gosh, there's too many, I can't read it. You can, you should read it, so do it. If you like this midweek moment, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment. If you have any questions about the Bible or think, hey, I can't trust it for some other reason, I'd love to hear. And we'll talk about that too, because it is the greatest book. I want you to read it, and you should. Leave a comment, subscribe. I'll see you next week.